There's Masters. Great chance here. That does it. Steve McGavin. And for the first time, Colchester United have won a major final.
Still Garcia, finally the company arrives and it's in! It's a freak-out goal from Ricardo Carvalho. Richard Garcia wants the credit and the shock is on at the bridge.
And it's promotion for Colchester United. They've made it into the Championship for the first time in 69 years.
Porter, being held, there is Porter, and that's Walker!
And welcome to Beyond the Barside, the podcast for all things Colchester United. I am Aaron J. A huge thank you to those tuning in on Apple, Spotify and YouTube. You're doing us a big favour there, but none more than those sharing the podcast on Instagram, X and Facebook. You are getting the word out to as many U's fans as possible. Plenty to talk about this week. Colchester United had to settle for a 1-1 draw with Crewe Alexandra. We were on top for big parts of the game, but struggled to be clinical in the final third, which ultimately ended up with us sharing the spoils. And over on the women's side, there's nothing but smiles as we storm through in the FA Cup with a brilliant win over Cambridge Rangers. And first up, I've got Si, Dave and the Gazette's John Waldron with me to chat all things Crewe Alexandra. Hope you enjoy. Welcome back to Beyond the Barside. I'm joined as ever by Si and Dave and the Gazette's John Waldron. How are we doing, guys?
Good,
thank you.
Lovely stuff. So we're coming off the back of a 1-1 draw at home to Crewe Alexandra. The U's on top for huge portions of the game, created many chances that we just didn't seem to convert. We'll break it up into sort of chunks. We'll start with sort of the first 20 minutes or so. Si, I think it was you that said that the U's looked like a Danny Cowley side. Do you think that's fair to say in the beginning of that game?
Yeah, it was definitely. We started off with high intensity, athleticism, looking to push forward, win the ball high, attack at every opportunity, play down the wings, etc. And had good intensity. But I'm just a bit gutted, and obviously we'll come on to it a bit later. But we seem to be becoming a very cut and paste Colchester. Loads of ball, loads of possession, looks to play the ball forward, etc., etc. Lose it, give away an absolutely stinkingly soft goal, and then play the game. So it's just, I think we played much better and we started better. We got a different kickoff routine, which I was very glad to see. Although it is pretty much the same.
It's one step removed.
Yeah,
it now gets passed back to Flanagan before
it looks a bit
out.
Obviously, that's different. But I think the biggest problem we've got from the first half is, take away the goal, is the fact that obviously Flanagan's got off injured, opened up his knee or his quad or whatever he'd done. So it was positive, but there's a few black marks.
Yeah, so you mentioned that Tom Flanagan went off. He was obviously replaced by Harvey Araujo. Is that how we're going with it?
It does seem to be the John, the professional.
I've had various variations. I think it's Araujo.
Araujo, okay. So Harvey Araujo comes on, he's left-footed centre-half, so it's sort of he slots in really well into that Flanagan position. Obviously, he's a recent addition to the club, along with Micah Mbic. John, you were quite involved with the deadline day stuff, and particularly throughout the window, you were reporting on lots of it. How difficult is it as a journalist to conjure up interest in a deadline day that didn't have a lot in it?
It's not easy. Yeah, I have to say, especially when the company asks you to do a live blog that starts sort of at 6 a.m. and then finishes way after the deadline has passed. And I've been quite lucky over the last few years, actually, with the U's, because deadline days, certainly the summer ones, have been pretty active. We had a period 10 years ago or so where it was just like the one that we've just had. It was pretty sparse, cobwebs blowing, nothing much happening. But I think Dimitri coming in especially, he was very, very active, and there were a lot of deals going on or potentially happening. And that was really good. And that seems to have continued with Danny and Nicky as well. This particular window, deadline, was pretty quiet, as you guys know. Nothing much happened, but I don't think that was for the want of trying. I think Danny and Nicky were very keen to get at least 2 in, really. In the end, they only got 1 in Micah Vic. But we know about Jay Mingy. I'm sure they would have loved to have brought him back. And there are probably 1 or 2 others that they were looking at as well. So, but in answer to your question, it's not easy because you're trying to keep that interest going. I think we're told interaction is good with supporters, and any rumours, whether it's Cole U or perhaps just the League Two in general, I think are really handy. And any speculation, it's the day for it. So, but it's not easy and this signing was announced after the deadline as well, wasn't it? So that was ironic. So I kind of knew that I didn't want to kind of log off just in case something happened, and indeed it did. So, but yeah, it's not particularly easy. But I mean, there's always something going on behind the scenes, whether it's sort of a wild rumor, speculation, or something going on down the road that might be of interest to fans. So it's enjoyable, but a bit bittersweet at the same time.
Yeah, I can imagine.
A deal.
Yeah.
Complete a deal, John, for your 12-hour marathon.
Sorry, Dave.
Absolutely.
I hope you don't get paid per completed deal on deadline.
No, yeah, and I'd be pretty skint, I think, if that was the case. Yeah, it's just one of those things. I mean, every club's different, aren't they? And as I say, I think Danny and Nicky would have loved to have got more in than they did, but it wasn't particularly, as we know, and I'm sure you guys have spoken about this on the podcast over the last few weeks. It's not been a particularly easy kind of summer for the club in general, for various reasons. So I think that was probably related to what happened on Monday as well.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned Jay Mingy, who was we were rumoured to be bringing in. I don't know whether you guys read the programme notes on Saturday. Really strange that Jay Mingy featured in the Crewe sort of people to look out for. And they mentioned sort of how many appearances he's made for Stockport, and he played for Colchester. And then it's just a little sentence where they said, and we were rumoured to be interested in Jay Mingy, but we weren't.
Yeah,
it seemed Danny
wanted him. So Danny's comments on that completely opposite ends of the spectrum.
Such an odd thing to read in the programme, because we clearly were.
And does it matter either way? It feels like, oh no, I didn't want him anyway.
He didn't want him anyway. I mean, he didn't even start, did he? Rubbish. He came on, obviously, briefly towards the end of the game. Quite an indifferent reception. I wondered whether he'd get a couple of pelters from S1 in particular, but it seemed to be quite amicable.
No, that was a smashing of applause, I thought.
Yeah, definitely. I think, he played well when he was a Colchester player and didn't leave in particularly negative circumstances. So I think we can allow Jay Mingy a fairly decent reception. But Mika Mbic came on as well. Looked pretty positive. In fact, second half, just jumping ahead in the game, Mbic, Williams and Lisby, the link-up play between those 3 seemed really, really positive. Obviously, we didn't get the ball in the back of the net, which is the most important thing, but they seem to be a lot more positive in creating chances. Would you say, Dave?
Yes, and it was the similar sort of positives that we tried to take from the Barrow game, wasn't it? That we did after struggling to create chances. We created 6 clear chances. And yeah, I was impressed with Mbic actually when he came on. Looked strong. Looked very quite decisive on the ball. A couple of times he lost it, but generally, yeah, looked confident considering he's a young player stepping, not been here that long. But yeah, I mean that just sort of. So my overall feeling about it, I might sound angry, but it's more frustration, and I think we're now at the point of tough love. Insofar as we look for the positives as a pod, as people, I think, and there were positives that we will continue to talk about, but we're 7 games in now. We haven't won any home games. And it gets to the stage where you've got to say, we know they can do it. Right? And you've got to start so NFL fans will know New England Patriots, the Tom Brady, Bill Belichick era, dynasty, incredible success. They had a mantra, very simple mantra: do your job. That was it. Do your job. And we're at a point now. We have to just say, right, look, it is not acceptable for neither fullback to play a single forward pass for an entire half of football. It's not acceptable for Aurora Edwards to slow every attack up when the ball comes to him and then make no decisive actions with the ball when he has the opportunity to. It's not acceptable for Jaden Williams to not finish that chance from 6 yards. For Lisby, the catalyst, the main man, to go clean through and then decide to try and take the leather off the ball rather than do your job. And I know this sounds negative, and I feel like when I listen to this back in a week's time, when I've calmed down, I'm going to go, went a bit hard there. But it's because this isn't 2022-23. This isn't the Wayne Brown or Matthew Etherington team. We believe in them. They can do it. That's why I say it's tough love. Just do your job. One of you, do your job.
I like the phrase tough love. It always makes it sound like you're going to send Lisby to bed without his dinner. It's quite funny. Yeah, I mean, you've mentioned 2 big chances there. Jaden Williams missed quite a close range effort, and Lisby absolutely levered the ball past the near post when they were clear through. It is frustrating. Interesting, you speak about Aurora Edwards. Si, you said in the last episode, I believe, that you would be interested to see how Aurora Edwards conducted himself after the window closed. I thought, particularly within the first 20-30 minutes, he seemed a lot more like the Aurora Edwards of old. Do you think that's fair to say?
Yeah, I do. Obviously, I know what Dave says there is very right. He did look to slow the game down at times, but I think a little bit of that was the fact there's actually no one actually far enough to keep up with him at times, because you've got Anderson, who isn't known for his pace, although he put an absolute blinder of shifting. That first part, credit to him. And Samson at times can be seen wanting a poor pace, but that's a different conversation. But I do think Edwards looked like he wanted the ball, looked like he wanted to take his man on. Even if he necessarily didn't manage to get past him every time, he looked like he had the pace to do. And their manager actually brought it up in one of his comments about during their attack, how the defenders had to go against the pacey Aurora Edwards. So that got noted by them. I don't know if you saw it, but there was a thing on social media with, that meme of someone in a cage. Someone put it, Aurora Edwards right now, and he actually liked it. So for where that's going on, God, to leave or not. But even if he wants to leave, I'm hoping that he's now got till January to prove why he should be leaving and who wants him. If not, play for the shirt, sort of thing. So, yeah, not as polished, but much better. So maybe I was right after all.
Yeah, moving in the right direction, definitely. And it's interesting you say, obviously, Danny made it clear that there were offers put on the table for a couple of Colchester players. He didn't specify who, but that Robbie stood firm and didn't feel that they met the club's valuation. So could well be Aurora Edwards, you don't know, but it's nice to hear that Robbie is still putting the club's interests at the forefront, because it could easily have made a few quid off of a few good young players there. So that was a positive as well. John, just talking about sort of the performance, we said in the Oldham and Tranmere games that we weren't able to sort of create those clear-cut chances. And within the last few games, we're creating those clear-cut chances, but we're not necessarily finishing those clear-cut chances. We're making slow but steady progress, and Danny talks about sticking to the principles. What do you think the U's really need to do to drive forward?
Well, I think the lack of goals, or certainly the number of goals scored this season, has not been enough, really. It's causing an issue because if you're scoring on average one a game, then it's going to be difficult often to win football matches. And that's why perhaps we've seen so many draws. They're not conceding many either. Defensively, have been pretty good actually, as they were last season. Lots of clean sheets last season. And the problem is, I think certainly with Saturday, was you go behind in a game, it makes it very difficult for you. Then you're chasing it, and as you rightly say, I think Colchester started the game well. Teddy Bishop went close. Arthur Reed had a good effort, and then you concede, which is an avoidable goal. Really, the way it was scored, I think it wasn't. Crewe didn't have to work particularly hard to score it, and all of a sudden it changes the whole dynamic of the game because you're chasing at home, going at half-time 1-0 down, and then of course the emphasis is on the substitutes to come on and make an impact, and of course. This season, they always have, haven't they? You know, every time Danny's made the changes with the likes of Kyrie's coming on and Jaden, they seem to have made a positive impact, and that happened again. But you don't want to always have to be relying on that to get points out of games. So I think there's a lot right with what's going on. I mean, you look at the statistics from yesterday's game, possession-wise, I think it was 65%, something like that. I know it's not everything in football anymore. 14 shots in total, 7 on target. I think Crewe had 1 on target. Their manager was absolutely delighted to get away with a point. I have to tell you, he was so relieved because, and this is a team. I know they've lost a couple of games before the Colchester game, but before that they've been pretty good in the league. You know, they're up there in the top 4 or 5. So for them to come away and actually be absolutely delighted with a point at Colchester shows how well Colchester played. And so I don't think there's a lot wrong at the moment. I just think that, you know, there's just a few tweaks here and there that need to be made. And I think, you know, obviously we're missing Jamie McDonnell. You have to say that. We're missing Lyle Taylor. That those players were key. Lyle's influence on and off the pitch. And you know, and he was top scorer last season as well. So there's issues there, but I think there is potential for points to be picked up certainly. And if they play like they did yesterday, they're not going to go far wrong, I don't think.
Definitely. And yeah, you've raised some really key points there. The goal in particular, which we'll start with, seemed to be sort of a series of individual errors, so to speak. Begins with Jack Payne losing possession fairly easily, and then Rob Hunt gets turned again very easily. The ball gets into the box and Macy's beaten at his near post. So, you know, there's 3 players at least that, you know, as Dave alluded to, probably didn't do their job in that respect. And it led to Crewe getting a goal that was really against the run of play and took the wind out of a positive start to the game. In regards to the defence, obviously we saw Tom Flanagan go off. Araujo, I keep getting it wrong. This is going to be horrendous for me this season. Comes on, puts in an assured performance, but on Tuesday night, Jack Baldwin starts and also puts in an assured performance. Do you think that there's a debate on who comes in at centre back, or do you think Araujo keeps his place after doing so well Saturday, John?
I think Danny likes the fact that Araujo is a left-sided player, and that gives that he's always talked about that about various central defenders over the years that he's been at Colchester. So I think that will play a part. But then of course you've got Jack Baldwin's experience, and Tom Flanagan is a hugely experienced player to come out of the team. So you're looking at the there's a huge contrast between Harvey Araujo's experience and Jack Baldwin. So it's a tricky one for Danny, really, in that respect, because, I mean, you've got Jack Tucker, and let's make a point about him. He's absolutely outstanding so far this season in every respect. Again, yesterday, I thought he was brilliant. And
He was,
yeah, and so that's helpful that he's playing so well, because if you haven't got that, then it becomes even more of a problem if you've lost someone like Tom Flanagan from the team for a foreseeable point, you know, some time. So it's almost a decent decision to make. Really, it's a good decision to make, because you've got 2, you know, very good players to come in, hopefully, and it's just making the choice as to whether you want that experienced centre half coming alongside Jack, or you're prepared to sort of go with Harvey, who, let's not forget, played so well for Chesterfield last season in League Two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a nice problem to have, you know, 2 really good centre halves that offer very different things to come in and replace Tom Flanagan. Obviously, the injury to Flanagan looked fairly innocuous to begin with. Si, you had a better view of it from where you were compared to me. but he seemed to sort of open himself out, and it looked like his knee side. What did you think?
Yeah, my initial thought was as he's done, he's opened his knee up, and it's obviously that, oh God, here we go. Surely not another ACL injury. Obviously, in the post-match stuff that Daniel was talking about, they said it's more of a muscular thing rather than his actual knee, very similar to what Lyle Taylor had. So doesn't sound great. Obviously, the other problem we've got is, and honestly, I'm not one to talk about being old and broken, but at his age, it's going to be even a minor, so to speak, tear. It's going to be harder for him to get back to fitness and stuff. That's absolutely nothing to do with him as a person. That's purely just down to the fact your body gets to that stage. So I'm hoping once all swelling goes down, they look at it, scan it, do what they're going to do. It comes back as more positive than first feared, but it doesn't look good. And obviously, initial reaction, if they weren't putting weight through it, carried him off as they did, rather than just try and get him to play on like we did with, say, Ben Perry and things like that. Whether they learned from Perry or his injury, I don't know.
I think we probably have, yeah.
It did then obviously pass the armband on, but it did feel at times that it was the armband on Saturday.
I think you were next, Si.
Yeah,
it went around everyone else.
Yeah, who's got it? Take it.
Yeah.
Right, you're coming off now. You take it. You're coming off now because you're paying to get.
It's a good question, actually. Because someone like Jack Payne, like a number 10, quite rarely gets captaincy because, you know, if things need changing, they're often the one to move on. Like on Saturday, and it worked. You know, the team's a lot more positive with that change of shape. Nothing against Jack Payne, but you know, it was a good tactical decision. But assuming Flanagan's out for a little while, obviously if Ellis was fit, he'd be the standout. And I can't really think, to be honest, Tucker maybe, but I can't really. There's no other standouts, I don't think.
I think if he doesn't bring Baldwin in, I think if Baldwin comes in, Baldwin takes the armband and he sort of comes in as captain. I think if he doesn't, if he goes for Araujo, I think Bishop potentially gets the armband in the middle of the park as a sort of, he's one of the more senior figures. Just going back to the Crewe game, we had a few sort of people not in the squad, which seemed a little bit surprising. Your mate Adrian Akande wasn't in there, Dave. Neither was Jack Baldwin. What did you think of the squad?
It was surprising that Mbik went straight in. I mean, he performed well enough to justify that. And without knowing the sort of form Edwards is in, and Anderson's just coming back from injury, I was surprised that Akande wasn't in, to be honest, as well as I think, is J.K. Gordon still injured? I'm not sure, but I don't know if you know, John. I can't remember.
Yeah, I mean, I asked Danny about him last Thursday, and if you remember, he had a slight knee issue in the warm-up against Barnet. Yeah. But he did say that he trained that day, which was last Thursday. So I was slightly surprised he wasn't in the squad. It may have been that he just didn't make the squad. You know, they've got a lot of options there now. So
yeah, I was surprised that neither of them were in. And I think when you've got, I wasn't as surprised that Araujo got the nod ahead of Baldwin, just because I think he can cover more positions. So he obviously, luckily enough, he came in, covered very well centre back, but he could have also gone to left back if needs be. So I wasn't surprised by that, but I think he will stick with Araujo for the Accrington game. But no, I wasn't. And it was interesting how we used Lisby, quite a little bit wider, and I think it worked well. But I think I was surprised at the lack of options wide, but I think I wasn't displeased with it.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. So yeah, we'll just sort of summarise there, John. You obviously made it quite clear that the Crewe coaching staff were very, very pleased to come away with a point. And Si, Dave, I think we all feel like it's again 2 points lost rather than a point gained. I put it out there on X for people to sort of review the performance in one word. Richard went for unlucky. Gavin went for dominant. James went for optimistic. Louise went with progress. Emma went with promising. Alan went with better. Milo went with same old Cole U, but sort of put the hyphens in there again. That's the second strike now, Milo. Don't do it again. And Jim again went with dominant. So just to sort of round off that performance against Crewe, what would be your one word, guys? We'll start with you, Dave.
Well, frustrating. And this, what I said earlier, and I described it as tough love, all of those words, like Louise, progress, better, dominant, they all apply. We play. That's why I'm in this fraught state still 36 hours later. Because they can do it. And it was a good performance. They did what they had to do, apart from in those moments, in so many times. So frustrating, but no, it is a step in the right direction. Like John said, carry on playing like that. It will come good, hopefully.
Okay, no, fair enough.
That was a lot of words. Sorry,
that was a lot of words, but you went with frustrated. That was your key one. John, one word to summarise the performance.
I think Dave's used the perfect word there, frustrating. I think it was definitely that because you know, if you're a football fan, you come away, your team has played really well, you should have won the game, your team doesn't win the game. That word sums it up perfectly, I think.
So yeah, definitely. Si, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think Dave's hit it on the head with his tough love. It's like, I'm not angry, I'm disappointed. It was kind of the take for me. And to sum up in one word, unclinical.
Unclinical. I like that. That's yeah. Unclinical. I think that's a word. We'll go. Yeah,
like that's a brand new word.
Yeah, that is.
It's clinical, isn't it?
I'm gonna have to check that.
I think that is.
You're going to pick a thesaurus up there.
Yeah, he's just got one. He's like you with your newspaper. Okay, nice.
Don't put me down.
Frustrated, unclinical. I like it. I think that's brilliant.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to use it a lot more times for the rest of the season. So
hopefully you won't have to use it because we're going to be clinical.
Oh, beautifully done. Wrap it up.
There we go, guys. It's lovely to chat to you. Thank you for chatting, Crewe. And we will reconvene to chat Accrington Stanley. So I'll see you soon.
Cheers, guys.
Huge thank you to Si, Dave and John there for sharing their opinions on the Crewe game. Right then, it's time for one of my favourite and newest sections of the podcast. It is the Fantasy Five-a-Side, where we get a Hughes fan to pick their dream Colchester United five-a-side team. The rules are simple. 5 players, any era, any combination, as long as they have worn the blue and white and mean something to you. This week, I'm joined by Ashley, a huge Colchester United fan, who's going to talk us through his choices. I'm looking forward to seeing who makes the cut and potentially who gets left out too. And if you want to have a go, feel free to leave a comment on this episode or email beyondthebarside@gmail.com. Hope you enjoy it. Welcome back to the Beyond the Barside podcast. We are here with Hughes fan Ashley, and it is time for our Fantasy Five-a-Side. Ashley, have you picked 5 players?
Hello, Aaron. Yes, mate. I picked my five-a-side. It was a tough choice, but we'll give it a go and see how we get on.
I like it. Yeah, so it's not necessarily like the 5 best Cole U players. It could be if that's what you wanted it to be, but it's more sort of 5 players that you enjoyed watching play for Colchester United for various reasons. I'm sure you got 5 decent players in there. What formation did you go for?
So I've got obviously you've got your goalkeeper, and then you've got your one centre back, which I'll explain the reason for that. A bit of a utility man in there. And then we've got a sort of midfield, all-round midfield man, and then an out-and-out striker. So
nice.
We've got almost like a 1-1-1-1 formation. But
I like it. Yeah, fair enough. You got a bit of everything. Who did you go with in goal?
I went with Aidan Davidson. He made his debut for us bang in 2004, and a 3-0 win at Sheffield Wednesday. 109 games for the club, 30 clean sheets, and obviously helped us get promotion in 2006. he come to us as sort of like winding down the end of his career, and he was just incredible, really. A really good character to have around the dressing room as well. And I've listened to a few podcasts recently, and they've said what a character he was, what a big character in the dressing room he was.
He's mad, isn't he?
Like, yeah, absolutely, mate. He's full of Parky. I think he's a goalkeeping coach at Wrexham with him now, so he's obviously stayed with Parky, hasn't he? So
he had a stint managing out in the States, didn't he, for a bit, and then sort of came back to work with Parky. I think, he was fantastic when he played for us, and even beyond sort of, because he came in as a player coach, didn't he?
Right, yeah, he did. Yeah.
The impact he had on Gherkin as well to push him through and make Gherkin the goalkeeper that he then became. I think that was it, in no small part down to Aidan Davis's influence, both as the number one and the goalkeeper coach.
Absolutely.
And he was part of a very successful youth side that got us promoted. He was brilliant, wasn't he?
Oh, just incredible guy. And I remember one moment. I remember it's sort of a bit off the pitch actually. Barnet away in the FA Cup in 2007, and I remember we rocked up to the ground, and the game had just been called off. It'd been a Warlord pitch, and Aidan was the first one off the coach, and he was like, I just remember his comment being, "Oh, that was a bloody waste of time, that trip then, weren't it?" As we got there, and it's like we didn't know it had called off, so that was our way of finding out that the game had been called off. So it was just, I think it was just one of those guys. He didn't get flustered by anything. He was just very laid back, and just some incredible performances. The Luton away performance in the first championship season, I think we got a 1-1 draw that night, but he was just unbelievable. 10, 11 saves. I think a lot of Luton fans said that night that's the best ever goalkeeping display they'd seen at Kenilworth Road. And he was just, there was different occasions when he was just, I know we had the air kick at Blackburn as well, didn't we? But every goalkeeper's going to have a little rick, and but he was, other than that, he was just brilliant for us. Absolutely top goalkeeper. Yeah,
definitely. I think you've hit the nail on the head with that. It's a great, strong start. Who'd you go for as your defender? Who's in front of Aidan?
So I've gone for one of his teammates at the time, and that would be Wayne Brown. Obviously, we're all aware of Wayne. He joined the club initially on loan from Ipswich in 1997, had his first spell with us then, and come back again on another loan in 2004, before signing permanently. And again, his stats speak for himself. He got us helped us get us promotion in 2006, and I think he got a Player of the Year that year as well. And he was just an incredible defender, wasn't he? He was just absolute rock. And Chelsea away, he kept Drogba quiet all game, kept him in his pocket. I remember the Tranmere game towards the end of the season. I think it was the penultimate home game in that 2005-06 season, and we were struggling for a goal, and then up steps Wayne Brown with a 25-yard free kick, bends it in the top corner. The last man you'd expect to see him doing that, but just great moments. And then obviously the bullet header against Sunderland in the following season in the Championship, and beating Sunderland in 18 games, and beautiful bullet header from Wayne Brown, who's just absolutely incredible for us that season. And it was obviously he was going to go on to bigger and better things, but it was nice to see him come back to the club in a different capacity as a coach, and then obviously to manage us. And he initially capped us up when he come back for that managerial spell in 2002, and unfortunately it didn't work out for him. But I think he'll always sort of go down as a bit of a legend within the club.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a lot of people, particularly like a lot of the younger youth fans, potentially don't remember quite how good of a player he was, and sort of only remember the sort of more difficult managerial period that he had to sort of endure. Kept us up, but obviously it was a side that were in a little bit of turmoil. Generally, I don't know how many managers could have come in and sort of steered the ship in the right direction. unless you sort of went for a Danny or Nicky Cowley, which we eventually did do. So one thing I remember about him is he just put himself on the line constantly. You know, he'd put a head in there, a foot in there, whatever. But that Chelsea game, I mean, it was touch and go as to whether he'd play, because he'd had surgery on his head.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Within the few weeks building up to the game, because he had a growth sort of on the crown of his head, didn't he?
That's right. Yeah, he did. And yeah, like you say, he was a big doubt going into that. And fortunately, he pulled through. And fortunately, I think if we'd lost him at that point, we might not have ended up getting promoted. I think he was that instrumental. He was part of that spine of him in defence, Davison in goal, Kevin Watson in the middle, and then obviously Chris William up top. So he was that main man at the back, at the part of the spine. And like you say, if we'd lost him, then it would have been maybe a different ending to the season.
Yeah, it's rock solid at the back at the minute with Davison and Brown. Two in midfield. You can choose which one you go for first. Who did you go with?
Well, I'll start with my utility man, and he is a real utility man, and that's Carl Dugard.
Okay, I thought you were going to say Halford as the ultimate utility. Played every position, didn't he?
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. I mean, same with Doogie.
Yeah.
I remember when my first game in '95, and I think I saw him a couple of times, and he was playing fullback. And I think the only place he probably didn't play was in goal, to be honest, over the years that I was watching him. And he just do a job wherever you put him, really. And he was one of those guys, the fittest guy you'll probably see play. In terms of energy, I played a fans game against him, and even at sort of 40, the guy was just breezing past people, and he's just, I think he's running marathons still now, and fitter to fiddle, the guy. So he's just brilliant to watch. Doogie, full of character. He felt like one of our own. I think he was Hertfordshire boy, born in Hitchin, but he felt like a Colchester lad. He come through the academy and come up the hard way, as you say, and as they say, sorry. And he just was epitomised what was Colchester United throughout the years, and over 440 games for us, 45 goals, obviously 2 spells as well after going off to Plymouth, captained us as well to promotion, and obviously led us into that first championship season as well. His goal against Ipswich at Layer Road, absolutely one of my favourite moments as a Colchester fan. And obviously the goal down here as well, and down at Ipswich as well. Just what a bloke, what a guy, and you'll still see him now at Colchester games in the crowd. But for me, he gives you everything. So in a 5-a-side team, I think you need someone who can do a bit of everything, and I think he's perfect for that size.
Yeah, definitely. And the passion that he brought to Colchester United was always second to none. So I think, as you say, with the utility, you could put him anywhere, and he will make sure that he puts 110% into it. Who's partnering with Dugard? Who's his pair?
Yeah, again, another sort of more. I would say he's more of a utility man in midfield, and he can sort of play just behind the striker as well as up top. And we're going for another local lad, and it was a tough one, this one, but he just picked it for me, and it's Sammy Smolix.
Yes.
I'm going with Sammy. He's more of a recent pick for me. I've tended to go a bit further back in my time with the other guys, but with Sammy, just again, one of these guys just left everything on the pitch for us. He was a Colchester lad, went to school in the town, or in the city now, we should say, and he came up again through the academy. He'd been there since the age of 7. Made his debut for us in 2013 away at Bristol City. I remember that, being there, 0-0 draw. I think he had a great chance, like the last 10 minutes to score. And, I was with a couple of his mates on the day who he was at school with, and we were just willing him to score. Colchester lad come on like that. But fortunately, it wasn't to be on the day. But obviously, he went on to have a great career for us, playing sort of around 160 odd games. And he scored, number of goals for us, didn't he? Memorable goals, and just all action midfielder. Really nice bloke as well off the pitch. I think for me, my favourite memory for him, it wasn't actually a first team game. It was actually a FA Youth Cup final up at Bradford. in 2014, and he ran the show that night. We beat them 4-2 on their patch at Valley Parade. He got a hat trick. Macaulay Bond got the other goal, but he was just lightning that night. And you could tell he was going to go on and have a decent career. My thing with him was sometimes his finishing wasn't always the best, but he improved on that. Obviously, he answered those critics last season before last with Blackburn banging in 20-odd goals for them in the Championship. So I think now, I mean, it's great to see what he's doing. It's a shame he's gone to Ipswich now, but I think we'll hopefully see him back at Colchester one day. And I can only remember him fondly, really, for us, and what a player he was.
Yeah, I think if you can forgive anyone for going to Ipswich, it's Sammy Schmodix, isn't it? I loved his work rate as well. I mean, he'd chase every single centre half down, full back down. He was just, as you say, all action. He would give it absolutely everything. And I think when you're a supporter watching a local lad like that work so hard and get the results, it was always lovely to see. So we've got Aidan Davison in goal, Wayne Brown, Carl Dogood, Sammy Schmodix. There's a lot of options for your striker. I do wonder who you're going to go for.
I'm going to go back to the mid 2000s, and I'm going to go with, and this is again a tough choice. It was one or the other, really, but I went with Jamie Kieran. It was either him or Chris Uwalumu, but I love Chris, absolutely fantastic. But I think for me, Jamie Kieran, I've not seen a better striker at the club in my 30 years of supporting the club. He was just phenomenal for us. Obviously, come in as one of Parky's old mates from Reading, old teammates from Reading. He brought him in on loan from Swindon at the time in 2005, coming in that October and scored 7 goals in 10 games for us. And I think, again, if we'd managed to hold on to him for the rest of that season, I think we might have won the league and gone up as champions. I think he come in at that end of that October. We were sort of faltering around sort of in the lower half of the table, and he come in and just ignited us, didn't he? And I remember the Yeovil home game, we won 3-2. He scored a couple of goals that day. Even the Leamington game, the 9-1. The goals were just, they would just seem to come out of nowhere. We were struggling to score early on, and he come in and just opened up everything for everyone, and it was just incredible. He could score with his head, he could score tap-ins, he could score 30-yarders, as we saw at Southend away the following season, and it was just unbelievable to watch as a striker. And that following season in the Championship, at the age of 32, I believe he was at the time, he scored 2 hat-tricks that season, 24 goals in all competitions. He broke that 20-goal a season record that hadn't been broken in the league since Tony Adcock in 1985. He broke that duck, and he was just incredible. And as I say, 2 hat-tricks that season. Obviously, the Southend away game, I think that will probably pop up in one of your sort of future podcasts as being someone's favourite memory, and one that, as Colby fans of a certain age will never forget that day. And just incredible. I think he's still playing now. He's just registered again this season for Cambridge City, where he's player manager, so at the age of 50. So he's clearly got that longevity as well, hasn't he? But what a player.
Yeah, definitely. I think you've gone for a team of legends there, a team of cult heroes. So we'll run through it again. You've got Aidan Davison in goal, Wayne Brown in defence, a midfield pair of Carl Dogood and Sammy Schmodix, and then Jamie Kieran, the goal scorer, the ultimate goal scorer, clinical finisher, up top. Ashley, this has been brilliant, mate. Thank you for coming on again and sharing your fantasy five-a-side. And if anyone thinks that they have got a better fantasy five-a-side than Ashley, then let me know. beyondthebarside@gmail.com. Cheers, mate. It's lovely to chat to you again.
Thanks, Aaron. Appreciate it.
Cheers, mate. Huge thank you to Ashley there for sharing his five-a-side team. Some great picks in there for sure. But let's bring the lads back in. Si, Dave and the Gazette's John Waldron to look ahead to Saturday's game with Accrington Stanley. It's an early one, a 12:30 kickoff on Sky Sports. U's fans are going to be leaving early, and the U's need to be switched on right from the start. So let's get in to how we're feeling about this one. Welcome back to Beyond the Barside. I'm joined by Si, Dave, and the Gazette's John Waldron. How you doing, fellas?
Good, thank you.
There we go. We are looking ahead.
Good, thank you.
Oh, that came through quite late. That was nice. Just like you've developed a ventriloquist out there, Si. Nice. We are talking ahead of the Accrington Stanley game, which is at 12:30, live on Sky. Si, you're a fan of the 12:30 kickoff, aren't you?
So I am. I know obviously a lot of people aren't, but there's been a lot of talk about wanting to get money back into the lower leagues, especially League One, League Two. So obviously the only way that's going to happen is if we are susceptible to moving kickoffs. I think whoever is the away team is always going to be moaning about these sort of things. But to me personally, it's not going to stop me going. I'll be up in the 5 o'clock in the car, off we go. But I look at it on the plus point of, you've got to get up early. But then when you're travelling back, you'll see, you watch Colchester, you listen to the 3 o'clock game, you listen to the 5:30 game. Then potentially I'm going to be home for the 8 o'clock game. So instead of having 1, maybe 2 games of football, I might spend 4, 2, 1 I'm going to watch live, 1 I'm going to watch on TV, and 2 I'm going to listen to. That's, for a football fan, that's brilliant. So I wouldn't want it every week. But every now and again, I'm okay with it. And to be fair, Accrington's not a bad drive. So yeah, it gets my vote.
Okay, yeah, I like it. Dave, you'll be there. What are you thinking of the 12:30?
Very similar to Si. And what you said at the end there, Si, was exactly how I feel. I don't mind it every now and then. There's a bit of a novelty. So with it being Accrington, I mean, my son and my nephews, Jacob, Nathan, Noah, they're seeing it as a bit of a challenge, to get up that early for them, they're teenagers, and then sort of, do the travel and back in the day. So they're looking forward to it. But yeah, as a novelty every now and then, I don't mind it.
And obviously, John, you would obviously make the journey in a different sort of capacity with it being work as well. I mean, does the 12:30 kickoff make a difference to you? Do you prefer 3 o'clock?
It doesn't make too much difference, to be perfectly honest with you. I think it's an early start anyway, and it just means it's a couple of hours earlier for me. And the positive is that I get back a bit earlier as well to sort of start writing up stuff and maybe even do a little bit on the way home as well if I'm not driving. So it's not a huge thing. I do sympathise with the fans. I understand what Si's saying. There are positives as well, but but we have to kind of bow to the fact that Sky do put a lot of money into the EFL these days, and this is a consequence of that. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think you all raise a very good points. There's particularly positive points as well. I like it. Obviously, we're not just going to talk about journey times and kickoff times and Sky's Sky's rights to the EFL. We're going to talk about Colchester's chances away at Accrington Stanley. Accrington themselves haven't had the best start to the season. I mean, you talk about Colchester drawing games. They're pretty similar. They're drawing games left, right, and centre. They've lost a couple as well. The most notable draw I think they had was a 0-0 with Shrewsbury, which, going back a few weeks seemed impossible for a side to draw with Shrewsbury. It's a game really on paper that Colchester United should be hoping to go to Accrington and do a job. The reality of it could be quite different given our form. We'll start with Dave. Dave, how do you see things going?
Well, to continue from where we left the Crewe game, if we put in that performance again with that intensity and that level of intent that we showed in the second half, then I'm confident we'll get a result because their confidence is low. I mean, they lost. They drew with Shrewsbury, who, as we saw the other week, are not good. They lost to Cheltenham. That was Cheltenham's first win at the weekend. So their confidence is going to be low. So if we go with that same intensity and the same intent as we did on Saturday, then we're more than capable of getting a result. And, there's some questions to be asked about the starting lineup and the formation. I think it will be Tucker and a Rougeau at the back, and I won't go into it in detail now because it might be something we circle back on, but the debate we seem to have every week, is it time for Lisby to start? I think after Saturday, we've gone from sort of 80-20 is a finisher,
Mm-hmm.
and we come down to 60-40.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think maybe Saturday and what he did has probably pushed it into being more likely. I would say.
Yeah. No, I think you've raised a really good point there. And I think I'll put it around the group to sort of get different perspectives. But I think, he's come in, he's done his job every single time Danny's asked him to come on the pitch and do something for Colchester. Often he's being brought on to sort of salvage something from a game. Just sort of to play devil's advocate a little bit, every goal he scored has been off the bench. He has started a couple of games where he then hasn't scored. So that could be an argument for him to remain as a sort of impact player, as a finisher. But I do agree with you, Dave. I think he's done enough to warrant a place in the starting lineup. I think out wide, I think he offers us quite a lot and puts the fear of God into any sort of fullback that he'll be running at. Si, what are you thinking? What's your opinion on Kyrie's?
It's a difficult one because admittedly we're away from home, so we've probably got a little bit more chance of starting than if we were at home. I think Danny does like the asymmetrical with the defensive work that Anderson does when we're at home to give us a bit of a stable footing for the first 30, 35 minutes, which maybe Lisby won't bring because he'll be obviously looking to push forward. But then at the same time, against a side like Accrington who are low on confidence, maybe that's what we need, a nice fast start, get the first goal, and then actually go on and get the second goal when we're on top. Because that's what we've been lacking with. Even when we go ahead, we get the one goal, we push. We don't get that crucial second goal, and then we end up conceding a sloppy goal for them to equalise like we did against Barnet. So I think there is a case for him to start. For me, defensively, I'd probably bring Baldwin in instead of Jalo, purely because he's a young lad and it's quite a quiet back line. And therefore, I think we need someone like Baldwin to come in to captain the side, or even if he doesn't captain the side, to command the back four and just be that voice of experience for, say, the first 60 minutes or so. Let the game settle into its rhythm. Let the players find their feet where they're going. And then if you want to bring him on, then you can replace Baldwin for him. For Jolo, if he hasn't got the pace or the fitness to finish the game, I just think we need a bit more experience to, especially if we're playing Lisby. And that's the other thing we're going to end up splitting the pitch quite wide and high. If you haven't got that holding midfielder, because obviously you're pretty still going to play Bishop and Reed, you need that good, solid defensive line commanded by somebody who's got a lot of experience.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, you raised good points there. John, what's your opinion on Kyrie? Do you think he's earned enough to get a start in place?
I think if he's not in the starting lineup next Saturday, he'll be disappointed given the impact that he had yesterday. He was excellent coming off the bench again, and we've seen it a few times already this season. I know why Danny, and this is no disrespect to Kyrie's, but I understand why Danny's not starting him or hasn't started him that much this season. And the major reason is because if you're bringing him on at, say, 60 minutes in a game that's very tight, his pace is absolutely terrifying anyway. But to a tiring defence, it's even more scary. And to see a player like Kyrie's coming on against you must be a real sinking feeling. So I get the temptation that Danny has to sort of leave him on the bench and bring him on because of the impact that he has. But I just feel that the way that he performed yesterday warrants a start. And Si made a good point earlier about Harry Anderson. I think there's been one or two critics of him this season and actually on yesterday's game as well. And sort of what does he do? Well, his work rate was huge yesterday, and it often is. And Danny loves that. And that's why one of the reasons why Danny signed him is because he knows that he puts an absolute shift in for the team most of the time, or if not all the time. You may not see the stats, in terms of the traditional winger assists and goals, and that's something he can work on, of course. But I think that's probably why. And you look at it, the game on Saturday coming up is a really tough away game against a team that are going to be I'd imagine, pretty physical and difficult to play against. And Harry has got that in his game, whereas Kyrie's probably hasn't got that so much. He's more of a flair player in the pace and so on. So it's an interesting decision for Danny to make. He's got quite a few, I think, as you mentioned, maybe with the Jack Baldwin one as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think he's got a little bit of a selection headache to think of ahead of the Accrington game. Speaking about Accrington, we did a pre-season sort of preview, didn't we, for League Two? And a couple of us listed Accrington as a side that were potentially going to struggle throughout the season. They haven't had the best of starts, but there was one thing that I noted, and it was something I picked up from the Absolute Football podcast, is that their chairman, Andy Holt, has been quite vocal in wanting to sell up. He's also been quite vocal in some of the various disputes that he's had with people associated with the club and with the local authority. Interesting to chat to you about this, John, obviously being from sort of the media. Someone that has such a turbulent relationship with A, the local media, and B, the fans and local authority, even though they're not directly within the playing squad and they're not coaching the playing squad, that must have a huge effect on the club and the wider community.
Yeah, especially a team in League Two like Accrington, who strike me as a community club, who's sort of, has been around for a long time, obviously in different guises perhaps, but they've certainly had the fan base, and going to the home games for Accrington fans must mean a lot, like it does for most other supporters up and down the country. But it's not just about the result on the Saturday afternoon. It's about the sort of social interaction that people have. It's about feeling part of something and so on. And therefore, if you feel detached from your club as a supporter for whatever reason, whether that's because of the owner and the decisions they've made or not, then that's not a good feeling. And funnily enough, last season when we got to Accrington, all of the talk then was about Andy Holt trying to sell the club and all of the issues surrounding that. And everyone was on a real downer because they, speaking to some of the people that worked there as well, they felt that perhaps jobs were at risk and things like that. And you could sense that there was a real kind of negativity there because of that. So, as we all know, ownership in football is so important. And if you've got the right owner, then it can make a huge difference. And, in contrast to perhaps if someone comes in that doesn't make the right decisions or doesn't put the football club first, and that can be particularly negative as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of how things are next Saturday when we're up at Accrington.
Yeah, definitely. And you raised really, really good points there, particularly with the, if you don't feel that connection with the club you're supporting, it can really create such a negative atmosphere that does have an effect on the playing squad, whether it's directly or indirectly, and that yields really negative results for the club generally. So hopefully after next week things will pick up and Accrington can get a couple of results and a couple of points on the board, but not this week. I think this is our time. I think Colchester United are going to get a very, very good and convincing win. We spoke about Kyrie's Lisby potentially being a starter. I think potentially we see a little bit more of Micah Embick. I don't think he starts, but I do think the cameo that he made, potentially he'll be one of Danny's subs that he makes on the hour. He likes to make sort of 2 or 3 changes on the hour. I think he's potentially one that will be there, and I think he may be a key player as the season progresses. Dave, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I agree. And he was, from the relatively brief time we saw him on Saturday, he looks quite a similar profile to Samson, and maybe even a little bit more mobile. And one of the things I think, obviously, without Goodwin, and if Samson has to come off and is replaced by either Williams or Lisby, that changes how you play. And it's not always easy just to keep, even if you do have rhythm in the game, or if you're trying to chase a rhythm, it's not always easy to just flip the switch like that. And I think certainly with him, that would make that a bit easier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. And there was talk of the back of the Crewe game of Arthur Reed's performance. Arthur Reed put a proper shift in. I was really, really impressed with Arthur Reed. Si, how important do you think Arthur Reed's performances have been? And do you think he continues to play with Bishop on Saturday?
So to be fair to R3, there was times in pre-season where I did get the feeling he didn't want to be there, slowing the game down at times, especially when we played Waldron. But a lot of water under the bridge since there. And in fairness to him, I think he made himself undroppable. That's got to be the first name on the team sheet. He's been so influential in a lot of things we've done. Obviously, it was his free kick that led to the equaliser on Saturday. I still stand by my views that him and Bishop cannot play together. And that's not detrimental to either of them, as I always say. It's purely that they end up cancelling each other out. And since Reed's star, if you like, has been in the ascendancy, I do feel at times Bishop has maybe not been as involved or as clinical as he has been in the past. So, there's obviously an argument for Dominic Gape to start. The reason behind that is if we're going to play high, when we'll be playing starting, we're going to play obviously a lot higher, look to press higher. That will then bring Arthur Reed and Payne higher, so I'll be on the ball to influence play. We then need that bridging player, if you like, in midfield to hold the line between the defence and the forwards to look to clear the ball, sweep the ball, etc. Obviously, he's not going to do my master tactical pep idea of playing Tucker.
Let it go.
Field. And he definitely won't now. In fact, we've lost, obviously, Flanagan, so he will definitely be staying put. So I think there's a cause for Gapes to start if we want to be more attacking. So it sounds strange bringing out a playmaker to put a defensive player in to make the side more attacking. But I just think for balance and tactically, it makes more sense to have that holding midfielder.
Well, I've said that. I think I've said it every week the last 4 weeks. I'm sure Gape will come in. I'm sure Gape will come in. And each week he hasn't. But and it goes back to what you were saying, Si, if he brings Lisby in and an inexperienced centre-back, even more reason to have Gape there. So, yeah, maybe this is the week.
Maybe this is the week you're finally right about Dominic Gape. John, Danny has been quite vocal in how good our away form has been this season. He's been quietly pleased with our form away from home. He hasn't been overly impressed with our form at home, but we seem to be going away and picking up points that we potentially wouldn't have done 2 or so years ago. How important do you think it is for the U's to go away and pick up these draws and these odd wins?
Well, unfortunately, it's been made even more important by the home form, isn't it? Because you're not picking up away points, then it's even more. The situation looks a lot worse. So, and that's the problem. If you're not winning at home, it puts you under pressure when you go away from home. But I'm sure they'll resolve that. But the away form has been excellent, hasn't it? Yeah, I mean, they're I think one of the key things when you're away from home, obviously, is to be tight at the back, and that's what Colchester have been so far this season. They haven't conceded many goals at all on the road, which is not easy. And they look really organised, disciplined. The shape's good. I've liked a lot of what I've seen from Colchester United so far. And I know it was the Virtue Trophy, but even Tuesday night at Wickham, it was really good. It was just a really good performance, and I just hope they continue that. The one thing that's just nagging away at me is the Accrington record over the last few years. It's not a great place for Colchester to go to, or traditionally hasn't been. I know it doesn't matter in terms of Saturday's game, all that's in the past, but it's just that nagging thing. Now, I don't think I've seen many wins there, if any, over the years that I've been watching Colchester.
Well, we tend to struggle against Accrington in general, don't we? They beat us at home last year. We couldn't beat them. I don't think we beat them the year before. And 2 years ago, we beat them 1-0 when Taylor, but they battered us. They absolutely battered us. And Taylor scored that breakaway goal. But yeah, it's one of those. It's like them and Barrow. It seems we just have some sort of mental block against them.
Yeah, I think, Si, when you were speaking to Stuart from the Railwayman podcast, he mentioned that Crewe have this sort of superstition that they never do well at Colchester. They haven't won a game at the job serve in 10 years. So I think these superstitions are there for a reason. So hopefully we can break the duck and get a decent win on Saturday away at Accrington. Just to sort of summarise, I think the U's are looking a lot more positive, a lot more attacking. We're creating more chances. We've got 2 exciting new additions in Embic and Araujo. I think potentially, given the form that Accrington have had and a little bit of the unrest that they've got going on there, and the way that we're sort of building up our performances and sticking to our principles, I think this is a game that Colchester can go and win. Obviously, it's Colchester. It's not that straightforward. We'll probably get pumped 4-0 or something, but I think Colchester are going to go there. We're going to get a result. I'm going to go 3-0 Colchester. I'm going to go around the group. Score predictions, guys. I'll start with you, John.
Yeah, I feel positive about this game as well, actually, and I just feel the way that they performed yesterday. I know it was a draw, but I was encouraged by a lot of what I saw, and also the fact that the away form has been excellent this season so far. If you put those two things together, I think it should be a positive day for Colchester. So I'll go for a 2-1 win for the U's.
I like it. Si, we'll go to you next.
This is probably the least confident I've been so far this season, purely because it's Colchester and we do tend to struggle against teams that are struggling. It's almost like at times with a charity team, you haven't got 3 points? Don't worry, we'll gift them to you. There you go. So that would be, if we can overcome that kind of curse around the Accrington sort of who's you as you like, then we can go out there, put a good performance in, get some players on the score sheet, get our confidence in front of goal, and look to kick on from there. So yeah, let's think positive. Let's go 2-0 win.
2-0. Get 2 wins on the bounce. Si gets a haircut. Is that right?
Haircuts. It's getting worse now.
Dave, just to round it off.
No, I agree. I'm also feeling positive. I'm going to go for 2-0 as well. I can see it being quite similar to the Shrewsbury game, where I think it might be cagey, but I think we'll always have control.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'll be a relatively comfortable win.
Okay, yeah, no, I like it. I like the positivity. We're getting there, but slowly but surely, Colchester United are getting there. If we can find a way of actually putting the ball in the back of the net more than once, if they can do their job, we will see the success. Was it the New England Patriots you were referring to there, Dave?
Yes, yeah.
It was indeed. That is the extent of my NFL knowledge. And what a way to round this off. Si, John, Dave, it's been lovely to chat to you. And hopefully we are all correct and the U's pick up 3 points on Saturday. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks a lot.
That's it for this week's episode of Beyond the Barside. Thank you very much for listening, and thanks again to Si, Dave, John and Ashley for joining me. And of course, thank you guys for listening and supporting the pod. If you've enjoyed the podcast, please do leave us a comment, give us a like and a share on wherever you are joining us from. And if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, a 5-star review really does help us reach more Colchester United fans. We'll be back next week with more chat about Colchester United, and we will also be back again in the week with a special one-off episode, Beyond the Barside meet. So it's usually every couple of weeks to a month, but I'm joined by a promotion winner. See if you can guess who that is, but I really enjoyed chatting to this person. So I'll speak to you soon, and up the U's. Thanks.